SoCalQOL. Happy Sunday. I hope that your Sunday is going well. And if you've been able to hang out with family, friends, children, loved ones, church peeps, that is amazing. Unfortunately, today I'm going to actually talk about something a little less positive, a little bit more, I don't want to call it pessimistic, but as you can probably tell by the title, we're talking about the New York abortion law that was passed or signed into effect, all that good stuff. Yeah, so let's just jump right in. So I think we've all heard this conversation since 1973, Roe versus Wade, basically allowing abortions to be legal in some retrospect, probably depending on the state, exactly how you can go through an abortion is, I think, depends on the state that you're in, as far as what you have to do to make it happen. But I'm going to take it back a little bit, because initially what this law was enabling women to do was realize that health and giving or having a child or giving birth, they're super obviously aligned, and it's not just like, signing up to have a baby, stork coming, here's the baby, we're all done. It's like your body is physically changing, morphing to allow a child to be born or grown inside of you, and then you inevitably give birth to it. And I could find some quick facts on what the ratios were of deaths to childbirths in, America, really, but even in the whole world. But I'm sure it was insanely high. It probably is more than 50%, back in the 1900s. And I'm sure it was a known fact. I'm sure that, from hygiene to, surgical tools and the procedure alone, people die, and people died from giving birth. So the initial promoting of this new law as being strictly to prevent more deaths in women giving birth in the 21st century didn't seem like odd. It just seemed like, okay, like that kind of a wording to me, I didn't know how accurate it was. So I really quickly Wikipedia'd it, and it actually isn't that uncommon. And I'm just going to stick to America or the US right now, because I think we can all acknowledge the fact that, third world countries, places in Africa, they obviously do not have nearly enough resources for things like childbirth. So obviously you're going to have more complications. You're going to have, even from the famine and food and all that jazz. There's already complications before you even, get pregnant. So, but as far as America goes, I found a little fact that says in 1990, the U.S. ranked 12th of the 14 developed countries that were analyzed. However, since the time, the rates of every country have steadily continued to improve, while the U.S. rate has spiked dramatically. Try to find another factoid. Supposedly, United Kingdom is the second highest in deaths at 9.2. Finland is the safest at 3.8, but the U.S. rates has risen to 26.4, and that was as of 2017. Furthermore, for every one of the 700 to 900 US women who die each year during pregnancy of childbirth, 70 experience significant complications such as, I'll just say organ failure, one other thing, hemorrhage, totaling more than 1% of all births. There's one more fact. So here's kind of the kicker for me that I saw that was kind of alarming. 1/3 of America's births have some complications. Many are directly related to the mother's health, including increasing rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and physical inactivity. That scared me. And that kind of becomes, the SoCalQOL outlook on this conversation. I think we all know that you can't tell someone what to do. You can't force them, as far as legally or morally, ethically. We're not here to literally force people to do stuff. It's one thing to have your kid do something wrong and you feel, obviously solely responsible for their activities in this world. But, when it comes to any other person, you don't really have the right to tell someone what to do. And I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that people are going to be people. They're going to need to do what they need to do at the times they need to do it. And there's no really way of convincing them of that. Yes, you can share your story. You can give them every fact in the world, but at the end of the day, if someone's going to be a dumb shit, they're going to be a dumb shit. So, okay, so if this, I think it's called the Reproductive Health Act. If the Reproductive Health Act is here to essentially partner with this New York abortion law, and they're trying to prevent women from dying, trying to prevent people from going through organ failure and other complications, which are, I don't want to call them symptoms of having a child, but if you have, because when you get pregnant, you're obese, because you have type 2 diabetes, or because you have inactivity in your lifestyle, that's not the baby's fault. That's not the baby's fault. That's just crazy. And it would be one thing if they were a drug addict. It'd be another thing if they were physically harming themselves. But you, as a human being, you can essentially live your life as a good person, as a person that is kind to other people, makes a living, pays your taxes. That still doesn't mean that you might be suitable to give birth or get pregnant. So if you do in fact get pregnant and you are obese, or you have diabetes, or you're inactive, that to me is not the baby's fault. And if we're going to take it out on the pregnancy being the issue, I think we have really, 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 really messed up not only the health world, but future generations of people who can look at getting pregnant and having an abortion as the solution to being, or it's almost like being in denial that you actually have a problem. Being in denial that your body's perfect and there's nothing wrong with you, and it's the baby's fault for even existing, whether you acknowledge that it's alive or not, or has a soul or not, or heartbeats and all that jazz. A lot of the complications are preventable. And so what is this law really doing? What is the Reproductive Health Care Act? Or what is it called? Is it called the Reproductive Care Act? Health Care Act? It's one of those. But that was just shocking to me. And so I get it. I understand what they're trying to do. But if I had an analogy, I would give it to you. I just think, I mean, if you can point the finger at some other thing that has nothing to do with, at least who you were or what you are before you get pregnant, um, that's one thing. But like, I just, I was shocked to know obviously what New York passed, but also the reasoning behind it. And then to come to find out that with a simple search, you can literally clearly see that it really has nothing to do with the baby, has nothing to do with, I mean, even the pregnancy. It's just almost like being in denial of your own situation. And the easiest way to not have to deal with your situation is to get rid of the thing that could inevitably, it's like trying to hide, it's like trying to hide the truth, or no, yeah, trying to hide the truth with a lie. It's the truth is some people aren't physically ready or able to give birth. And granted, 100, 200 years ago, if people had the option to have better surgical procedures, better types of antibiotics or painkillers or all that stuff, I mean, they would be, rolling over in their graves right now, I'm sure, if they saw that their death led up to the reasoning of someone who is inactive with their life, or, in their lifestyle, or physically not suited to have a baby, who then has a baby and decides that it would be easier to not deal with the issue of, your own problems by just getting rid of the thing that actually could essentially make your life better. I'm not saying that I want anyone to die. I'm not saying I want anyone to have organ failure, have any complications. But if you do not recognize that the law that has been enacted is enabling people that aren't suited to have had abortions, I know that it's not very uncommon, especially nowadays, like how it was hundreds of years ago. But I think, like I said, given those people's experiences and the culture that we had and the time of, our country, they would have done everything in their power if they could, I'm sure, to have their baby, but they physically couldn't because of all these other complications that had nothing to do with their bodies or their health personally. So I think there is one huge disconnect there. I'm going to hop to my phone because I tried to look up stuff just to have on hand. Um, there was a doctor named Bernard Nathanson who essentially was a pro choice advocate up until the 1970s, early 1970s, basically Roe versus Wade time. And it wasn't until then that we were able to have things like ultrasounds and other technologies that could actually show the things that, you know, dream about or think about, as far as a child being getting pregnant, having the fetus grow inside of you, and then essentially giving birth to it. We could only guess at, where, at what point was what happening. And he basically felt so compelled by the technology, by the knowledge that he had basically witnessed with his own eyes, that he created a film called The Silent Scream. And it essentially documents the process of having an abortion. And I was going to watch it. Granted, I was also cooking dinner, so I knew that I basically, if I watched it and I obviously couldn't eat afterwards, that probably would be counterproductive. So I was like, okay, I'll eat first, and then maybe I'll figure it out. But up until the point where actually things were being shown, he basically said this, and I tried to, you know, basically get it word for word. So I apologize if I'm paraphrasing. It says, "For the first time, we are going to watch a child being torn apart, dismembered, disarticulated, and destroyed by the unfeeling steel instruments of the abortionist." So by the time I heard torn apart, I was basically already done. I was like, I don't need to see this because I know where I stand, and I don't need to see it to believe that it's not right. Even using the word dismembered or disarticulated, which I had to look up, which is basically like pulling apart of joints and basically destroyed. I personally think that if anyone can hear that and they're not morally, ethically challenged, and they don't have a different point of view when it comes to their values, I think it really, 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 goes to just point out that there are people out there that do not see certain things as a problem. And that is the reality that we live in. That's the world that we live in. And we, us as individuals have to deal with any type of scenario, situation, other person type, all that stuff. And that is going to be normal. So if you can hear that and that doesn't disturb you, I personally don't understand. But I do understand how someone who has to actually make a decision on if that happens or not, how scary that must be. And I'm empathetic to that in regards to just being in control of someone else's life or being in control of another thing's reality. Or I mean, I know animals aren't supposed to have souls, but that's basically since 18 to 25 days. Brain waves, which have been recorded at 40 days. The baby can squint, swallow, and make a fist. The baby has fingerprints and can kick. The baby is sensitive to heat, touch, light, and noise. The baby sucks on his or her thumb. All body systems are working. The baby weighs about 1 ounce and is 2.5 to 3 inches long. And the baby could fit comfortably in the palm of your hand. So those being the stats of facts. I mean, they're facts. So this brought up the type of field called fetology. Let me actually fetology, and it's the study, diagnosis, and treatment of the fetus. I guess it was originally recorded in 1960 to 1965. The branch of medicine concerned with the study, diagnosis, and treatment of the fetus, especially within the uterus. So, as this new type of field is created, they've obviously been analyzing it. They've obviously been doing the studies, doing the work to figure out a way. Because I think that's where we're at now. We're at a point now where laws are going to be created. I know they're trying to make this an amendment, which I don't even know why that would make sense. But bills are going to be passed, laws are going to be made, different types of acts are going to be created to supposedly do one thing. Do one thing to help a certain individual or group. But at the same time, people are always going to use those types of things to benefit themselves or fit their agenda. And so we as a people with morals and ethics and values, and some of us have religious faiths, but we obviously can't stop other people from doing certain things our goal, our job, our calling is to, at the least, set an example, first and foremost. So if you don't believe in abortion, don't get an abortion. We need to inform people, which, like I've talked about before, like with my weight, I was informed about my weight and how to lose weight and how my body works and how food does what. And it empowered me. It gave me the courage to step out and to make a decision about my own life. And that's what we have to do with the information that we're given. So this is another type of example of that. We need to inform others as much as we can, whether it be on a podcast, conversation, probably not on a Facebook post or other methods of social media that aren't catered to people that want to hear about it, because otherwise it's just going to come off like you're condemning people. So you're going to have to do it in love, and that type of love might need to be in person. It might need to be with someone who trusts your opinion. So don't go around belittling people because you feel like you're right, they're wrong, if they don't trust you. I'm not going to listen to someone who I don't know and I don't trust their opinion of. That doesn't make sense. So why would you think it would work in this regard, in this big, huge, crazy conversation? So to come full circle, we're acknowledging the fact that yes, women do have, to this day, a chance, like I think it was 1/3 said, I think that's what the stat said, that there's either complications or the possibility of death, depending on, if you're obese, if you have diabetes, and or if you're inactive. Since they have something, but are in a situation that's preventable. I think it's up to us to acknowledge the fact that if someone gets into a situation that they know their body can't handle, and other than them accepting their fate and being able to change their future by taking it out on a fetus, or taking that, if you call it a symptom or whatever you want to call it, acknowledging the fact that if they continue down this route, they might die. They are preserving their own life, their own soul, their own body. Like we know when we're flying in a plane, and if you fly and the announcement comes on that we're going through turbulence or something, there's an air pocket or whatever that's open or whatever, and the pilot says, put your mask on, you're obviously going to do your mask first, not the person sitting next to you. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we're going to do anything, we need to promote the fact that an active lifestyle, a healthy body, is more important than ever, even beyond the technology that we have, and even beyond that. And that's the pros and the cons. We have enough pro technology in this world to give birth to healthy babies, but we also have enough technology to kill fetuses and have abortions. So with that power comes a responsibility for us to be like, okay, well, if someone has a preventable complication in their own life, as far as when it comes to giving birth, we need to make sure that at the least, someone knows that they should take care of their body first and foremost. If they do get pregnant in the process of being healthier, they at least have a better shot of preserving their chances of giving birth and of having a baby, healthy baby. And if it truly cannot happen the way, the fairy tale stories say they should, the reality is that people have the right to decide what they're going to do with their bodies. And in New York, you can wait, or you can now do it in 24 weeks after conception. And it doesn't it doesn't change the fact that the person is just trying to take care of their own body and soul. But it does change at least my perspective on the preventing of it. The preventing of an abortion could be as simple as you being more active, walking every day, eating better food, staying away from carbs. And we need to try our hardest to get that information out there, because I don't want to see any fetus killed. I don't want to see any woman go through an abortion if she doesn't have to. And I do feel like this is kind of beyond the, I'm off the pill and I didn't have a condom kind of conversation. If that's the conversation that you're in, uh, then this new abortion law, is taking advantage of a situation that, you know is just sickening to think of a situation like that, because the reason why certain things get enacted, become law, or even become an amendment, isn't to take advantage of the system, isn't to pursue someone's hidden agenda. And unfortunately, people find ways to take advantage of of those types of things. So once again, we need to do our best as a community, here at SoCalQOL, to inform every woman to definitely have a more active lifestyle, to beat obesity, to hopefully, if you can prevent diabetes and or get rid of it, we're here to help you. We want to see, we all succeed in pregnancy, and we also want you to succeed in your family's future and your children's lives. And that's basically what we're here to do. And we hope that this type of information, this type of perspective, kind of pulls on your heartstrings to the point where you don't have to go watch the silent scream to understand the actual physical torture that happens to a fetus, or go to the religious to be condemned for even having the thought of trying to save your own life by taking away another, or a fetus's, or however you want to look at it. So that's basically where I'm going to kind of wrap it up. I Once I heard about this, I knew I was going to have to bring it up at some point. I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly, but with the spiritual wellness of our company, we kind of need to stay up to the most current events. And so obviously this is like the first Sunday after it happened, I think. And so yeah, I hope that this might steer people in the right direction. If anything, I hope it steers people away from verbally abusing other people, or pretending like everything that we think is right and everything someone else thinks is wrong. That's not the point, of anything in life. You need to love on people, add value to people, and if that means you need to walk the path with someone who's in this situation, and they just are scared, and they want to get rid of the problem. They literally want to get rid of the problem that they've been, having. And for some people that might be it. For some people who are obese, some people who have type 2 diabetes, or who are just inactive, having or getting pregnant might be the thing that they need to change their life. That might not save a child, that might not save a fetus, but I think we can all relate to the fact that we've all done some stupid shit in our lives. We probably have some regrets. We would probably do things a little differently if we were older, if we knew more, if we had those experiences sooner, or at least knew about the